Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of our Audit Committee for October 11th, 2023. My name is Lene Palmisano, and I chair this committee. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Committee Member Koski.
Present.
Osbein.
Present.
Williams.
Present.
Abeni.
Present.
Omar.
Present.
Vice Chair Singleton.
Present.
Chair Palmisano.
Present.
There are 7 members present.
Thank you. Let the record reflect we have a quorum. I also want to welcome our new committee member, Omar. Leah Omar is joining us today for her first meeting, right? Colleagues, our agenda is before us. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries and the agenda is adopted. Next, we have the acceptance of the minutes from our regular meeting of August 14th, 2023. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries and the minutes are accepted. Next, we'll move on to new business. Our next item of business, item 3, is receiving and filing the Revenue and Collections Audit Phase 1 report. And I will invite up our audit director to go ahead and start that presentation. I do want to note for my colleagues that at some point, I assume, I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to talk before the meeting. I assume we're going to do this open part, and then I am going to make a motion to close the meeting for some of the other recommendations.
That's correct, Chair Palmisano. We have 4 issues we'll be discussing in public, and there are other 3 which we would like to discuss that during closed session.
Great. So then, Mr. Pudal, go ahead with this part of the presentation.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano and Audit Committee members. So basically, we just recently completed the Revenue and Collection Phase 1 audit. And just to give you a background why it's important, because in 2018, we had an incident related to check handling, and then COVID happened, so we had to pause that audit for a while. But ultimately, we provide service to the city and collect funds in terms of that. So it's very important for us to properly handle those funds and to account for those, and also safeguard to make sure when we talk to the community to make them know that their funds are properly handled and secured. So that's why this audit was important to us. And I'd like to invite Senior Auditor Kamran Alidi and our Internal Auditor Nagita Lane to go through the details of the report right now. So, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair Palmisano, members of the Audit Committee. I just want to first thank all of the staff who helped us with this audit. We really could not have gotten through this without them, and we owe them our gratitude for their assistance. And I will be walking through the background portion of the audit with you all this morning before passing it over to Kamlan Alede. So as part of the 2023 Integrated Risk-Based Audit Plan approved by the Audit Committee, the Internal Audit, a division of the City Auditor's Office, conducted an audit of the revenue and collection process. The city provides various services for residents and businesses that are revenue generating. The city generally receives revenue from taxes, assessments, and intergovernmental revenue, in addition to charges for services, sales, permits, and fines. The city has established different collection sites throughout Minneapolis to process payments and accommodate residents and customers. And managing a structured and governed revenue and collection system through streamlined processes, oversight, training, and accountability reduces financial, regulatory, and operational risks, and ensures safety and trust for the city and its residents throughout the collection process. And city employees play a critical role in the revenue capturing process as they work with residents and businesses to collect payments on behalf of the city. The objective of this audit was to review the design and effectiveness of controls around the city's revenue collection. The scope of this engagement covered revenue and collection processes from January 1st, 2021 through March 31st of 2023. Specifically, this review included revenue collected from online payments, credit cards, cash, checks, money orders, and other payment types. I will now pass it over to Kamlin Alede.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair
Alede.
Parmesano, the committee members. I'm going to cover the audit approach and methodology, results, observation, and management action plan. We review department and citywide policy and procedure. We assess the adequacy of the finance department oversight of revenue. We assess the adequacy of the department and division collection management oversight and monitoring. We review management of fraud risk related to online, credit card, cash, check, money order, and other payment type. We review control over the revenue collection process. We also assess the availability, completeness, accuracy, and timeliness of the documentation and reporting. We assess control and processes related to data security with an emphasis on payment card industry data security standard requirement. We also assess the mailroom distribution process as related to revenue and collection. We visited different revenue collection sites, animal care and control, convention center, impound lot, and a new public service building where we have a different collection point there, CPED, reg service, and a 311. As a result, so in this side we will present, I'll talk briefly about those seven. We identify 7 issues. We cover 4 of them in public meeting and the other 3 in closed door meeting. So as a result, we have issue 1 related to policy and procedure. I'll provide more detail in the following slide. Issue 2, oversight and monitoring. Issue 3, internal control in revenue collection. Issue 4, data protection. Issue 5, security measure. And issue 6, training. Issue 7, mailroom processes. Issue 1, we observe that there's we have the document, policy and document related to revenue and collection here, but they are outdated and they are not sufficient and to provide guidance to department in revenue collection. According to the city policy and procedure, the revenue collection account receivable policy, we have a centralized department collecting revenue on the finance account receivable, but other decentralized area, they need to have their policy and procedure as well. So review by finance department and review and approve by finance department. We observe that we have the document here, but at the finance level, the document are not communicated to department, is outdated as well. And the other sites we visit, some of them don't have a procedure document. So we recommend that the finance department identify and review communicate policy and procedure document governing the city revenue to all departments in revenue collection. They need to update the city talk a page, define and assign responsibility and ownership of the policy and procedure. The reason we recommend this one, and Finance Department at some point make some updates in Treasury Department to account receivable and banking investment. So that was the previous manager, cash manager, the owner of those documents. But since they made the change, they need to define fund, they give those kind of responsibility to other or account receivable or banking. So is why we propose that. We propose to review and approve department procedure as well. Review policy and procedure at least annually. So best practice recommend that we review those documents annually. Even if you don't have any change, you review that so they can note the date, last date on the document. So management respond to our recommendation. So the finance recognize the need to maintain an update policy and procedure. To that end, the cash handling, account receivable, employee cash document have been updated and reviewed. So during our project, we talked to them about those documents, and the management started reviewing those. They will continue, the management said they will continue to review those documents and communicate that to the department. They will go to the other sites and review their procedure as well. So that covers the issue 1. You have any question before I move on or we continue?
I'm not seeing any questions right now.
Okay. Issue 2. Audit observe insufficient finance and department level collection site oversight and monitoring. What we mean by that is finance got authority over all the revenue collection sites, the decentralized and centralized area. And we realized that there's a kind of oversight, but just could that cover mostly the centralized area on the account receivable. So the decentralized area, we observe that it's not that much oversight around the revenue collection. So we recommend that the finance department create an organization chart. So in some area, we can have like revenue division. It's not what we propose, and they will decide. So where you have all the department collecting revenue, so you can see the picture when it's time to go to implement something, change or communicate change to all the departments, so we know that the whole picture of the organization. So we determine the ownership of the previous cash manager's responsibility. So the previous cash manager had a lot of responsibility over that. So when we divert this treasury to banking and account receivable, so we need to define the responsibility, the owner, the new owner of those procedures. And we recommend that periodically to review collection process at all departments and sites to ensure they perform according to the policy and procedure, and that department level oversight is working properly. The management response, the finance department and property service department recognize the formal and role assigned in relation to revenue collection per the City of Minneapolis Code of Ordinance. Finance and property service will work to document and implement an organization structure that best position the city to ensure the proper level of control over the revenue collection processes. Issue 3. internal controls. Audit, we had identified non-compliance with internal control in revenue collection at different departments, especially the segregation of duty. So I'll give you one example of that one. When we receive payment through mail, according to our policy, we have different staff who get that process. One staff can open the mail, log, collect the check and log that, and stamp the bag as a deposit of City of Minneapolis only. And the other person the second person will put that in log, and the third person will process the check. But when we visit all the state collecting those checks, we see lack of the segregation of duty. And we recommend that we give those name area to finance department, so we recommend that they follow up and review all department collecting and processing mail remittance to ensure proper segregation of duty. Follow up with the identified department to establish adequate physical and electronic segregation of duty. The electronic one, because at some point we found out one department, everyone can just go in the system, and when the system charge late fee to customer when they don't pay in 30 days. So when sometimes they send the payment, but the same maybe check get lost somewhere, they are not processed. So we need to update them, remove that charge. So it should be control around that. So everyone every staff at the department and go and change the late fee. So we recommend that will be electronic control as well. So we recommend that finance department partner with Minneapolis Animal Care and Control to determine possibility to add one more cashier drawer. We add there, we have 2 staff using one cashier drawer. So that is against the best practice of control. So we recommend that they work with them. We know that will be changed in the counter area, and so we recommend that. So finance department, the management will work with the animal care and control area to adopt that. So the management will implement the periodic and ad hoc basis controls around the CD revenue collection and ensure management mitigate control deficiency. So the deficiency we found or those area finance department will work with them. I think they start working already with them and to mitigate those deficiencies. So we recommend that the management train those staff to, so the management responds to say they will train staff and management in revenue collection to help them understand the importance of the segregation of duty. So finance department will recognize the need to work with the department collecting revenue to ensure proper internal control. Internal controls are communicated to staff doing the work. Recently, account receivable staff met with several departments to discuss a separation of duty, and those meetings will continue. Finance and Property Service will assist and consult with department to identify gaps and opportunity to strengthen control and safety procedure where available. So we can see at the bottom of our management response here, we have October 2024. It's because we have a different point, but they start the remediation action now, so we are aware of that. So we agree that every 2 months we follow up with them and check on those action they've taken.
Well, thank you. I know we're not done with this audit, but a lot of these pieces seem fairly routine. I want to thank Mr. Lyle Hodges. He's here today with people from his department. Thank you for this look through your end. We appreciate your cooperation and your team's cooperation. The next part of this particular audit speaks to some recommendations that come out of this report that contains sensitive and specific information. And so to that end, I'd like to recognize our city attorney, Eric Nilsson, to provide a legal basis for potentially closing this meeting. Mr. Nilsson?
Thank you, Chair Palmisano, members of the Audit Committee. Under the Minnesota Open Meetings Law, it's Minnesota Statute, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3D. Meetings may, upon proper motion, be closed to receive security briefings and reports, to discuss issues related to security systems, to discuss emergency response procedures, and to discuss security deficiencies in or recommendations regarding public services, infrastructure, and facilities if disclosure of the information discussed would pose a danger to public safety or compromise security procedures or responses. Financial issues related to security matters must be discussed, and all related financial decisions must be made at an open meeting. Before closing the meeting under this section, you must, in describing the subject to be discussed, in this case, security of the city's practices, procedures, and controls for handling revenue collection, refer to the facilities, systems, procedures, services, or infrastructures to be considered during the closed meeting.
Thank you. Before I move to close this meeting, Mr. Olede, did this slide potentially get skipped over and you want to
Yeah.
go through it? That's
Yes.
what I was just noting from our look at one another. Why don't you go ahead and do
We're
this,
gonna cover
please?
it. Okay, thank you. Issue 3 is related to training. So do you observe that a lack of standardized and annual training? So according to the policy, we staff in revenue collection, when we recognize that when they hire the staff, they train them the first time, they got to go through the annual training. So annual training is not happening. So we recommend that finance and department responsible of revenue and collection update training materials and identify training opportunity for all personnel. And finance and department develop and align training with business needs and obtain approval from upper management. And we recommend that finance department requires department in revenue and process to create logs to keep and track of training. The management finance and property service will coordinate with department as needed, evaluate their needs, and seek remediation of gaps in training and knowledge. This work will take place in conjunction with other audit response as related to process documentation, review, and control evaluation. So we cover the number 6 and we can move to.
Great. So with the audit committee report given thus far, we have a question or comment from Commissioner Abene.
Yes, thank you, Chair Palmisano. And I do have maybe a couple of comments and questions. I think particularly, I think there's some of the themes around the process, maybe gaps, I think have come up in other audits as well. And, you know, I'm sitting here as the Park Board Commissioner, but I'm also a citizen of the city, and I'm also a public servant. I work in the public sector and have for the vast majority of my career. And I see this as an ongoing problem, and I think it's a threat that's out there for all of these organizations. I think that one of the issues is that the old guard has gone, and the old guard was top-down, and they had fiefdoms. And the new way of doing things is more collaborative. And I think with the change in thinking, I think that some of the people that are now maybe running the show don't understand maybe why some of the things existed before under the old guard. I really believe that. I'm baby boomer adjacent myself, so. But that being said, I think one of the things that was striking in here, you know, you can do a lot with processes and procedures and training. I think the other challenge we face is that so much of our work is electronic now. I work all day in my day job, and at the end of the day, there's nothing. You can't see anything that I did. It's all bits and electronic. So there's nothing to see. We're working, many of us still are working or will continue to work remotely. There's nothing you can post on a bulletin board or a wall. So I think that things have to be a little bit more proactive. So one of the suggestions in the report was that maybe that procedures are reviewed annually. And I think that's great, but I think that there needs to be a compelling factor there, something that's potentially auditable. I'll give one example and then I'll stop talking, but there is a program that both the city and the park board operate, and frankly, at my day job, I also do the same thing, and it's related to stormwater permitting from the state and the federal government. And that program actually requires annual review of every single procedure. And it must be done, and without it, no one will know if you don't do it until you get audited by the Pollution Control Agency. So I think that there needs to be some more strength. I think these recommendations will only be as strong as the words that they're written on and the electrons that they exist in. And I think especially when we're handling money and we're training new people, people also need to understand why it is that they're doing the thing they're doing. So I really appreciate the opportunity to say that, make those comments, and also read this report. And I just really value the work that you're doing here for the citizens of Minneapolis. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Jarvis.
So, Mr. Com, did you have something before we close the meeting?
No, it's coming have.
No. So with that, I'm going to move that our public meeting be closed as authorized under the provisions of the open meeting law, specifically Minnesota statutes 13D.05, subdivision 3D, to receive a security briefing regarding this revenue and collections audit phase 1 report. Could I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries, and so now we will close the public portion of our meeting and convene in closed session. For the viewing public, I will note that the broadcast of this meeting will continue, and the audit committee will reconvene in public after we've concluded the closed session portion. So, to all those that haven't done this before, we get up and we go into room 315. So I'll meet you there, and Councilmember Koski can lead the way. I will direct the clerk to please receive and file the report and direct staff to publish the report, albeit in its redacted format. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries, and the report has been received, filed, and will be published today. New business item number 4 is our Minneapolis Emergency Communications Center, otherwise known as 911, our third-party and intergovernmental relationship consult report. To give that presentation, Mr. Puydel, go ahead and start us off.
Well, thank you, Chair Palmisano and Audit Committee members. I'd like to invite Community Safety Auditors Travis Cam to discuss the details of the Minneapolis Emergency Communication Center third-party and intergovernmental relationship consultations, as well as to discuss why it's important for the city and the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Kam.
Chair Palmisano, members of the committee, thank you for, today we're going to present, long name, but MECC third-party intergovernmental relationship consultation. I'd first like to point out we have MECC management. We have Director Jody Hodney and Rachel here who can answer any questions or kind of provide any comment as well throughout that. And I appreciate the willingness to work with us and their time, and all that much appreciated this. So just kind of some background on this. This kind of began actually from a non-public consultation 2 years ago that was kind of related to MECC. Just kind of some continuing work and some follow-up on there. I'd like to kind of say too, this is kind of a limited consultation. Kind of mainly just looked at the contracts and some of the processes, and that wasn't an in-depth IT or kind of assessment on there, but we do have some recommendations that we'll kind of get to there. And for logistics too, so this is a consultation, so we do have recommendations. Management's not required to follow up on them or kind of act upon them, but as audit, if we do come back in to these areas, we kind of would expect to kind of see our recommendations or kind of these risks have been addressed. It's kind of more of a collaboration and kind of more of that kind of lighter touch of trying to figure out kind of the general sense of kind of what is occurring and how can we best assist in there. So as some background, so just kind of a quick discussion on the scope. So we kind of looked at the design and operating effectiveness of process related to third parties during the time period from January 1st, 2016 through May 31st, 2023. And those time periods are kind of 2 contract periods back for the contracts that we were interested in. I'll kind of get to that in a little bit of kind of those third parties. But we kind of performed this through discussion, inquiry, and review, and kind of some select testing for the processes and scope. So just kind of some specific areas, so looking at contract inventory for MECC, contract administration and management, intergovernmental contractual terms and obligations, and then kind of that third-party risk management piece at the end. So kind of some more background, the city operates an emergency dispatching center that provides community-aided dispatch, or CAD, for the city and other agencies, including, in this case, kind of the ones that we're talking about here, Hennepin Healthcare System, which is kind of doing business as HCMC, or kind of Hennepin County Medical Center, more commonly known as the University of Minnesota, kind of through the U of M Police Department, and then the Minneapolis Park Board, or Park Police, which, for the sake of the city, is considered a third party, and kind of that relationship as they operate through there. And with that, they kind of, all these agencies kind of help, all these agencies kind of tap into kind of the city, or kind of use the MECC. There's that the city provides services, CAD capabilities to help kind of coordinate these requests for services and some other services for these other parties as part of a kind of cohesive dispatching center. So yeah, some call taker, computer services, kind of hardware, CAD capabilities, kind of it varies depending on the agency, kind of depending on the contract, and kind of what the needs or kind of the support of the agencies. And with that, too, data is shared between the city and other agencies, and there's access to systems, which is kind of why a little bit too this was kind of identified, and or kind of continuing that conversation too in that consultation that we did a couple of years ago, which was more of an IT assessment of kind of there's data, there's shared systems, there's kind of that give and take relationship, and which is more kind of high risk, and maybe some other contractual relationships where it's just shared, or financial, kind of some other risk, financial, or providing services that don't necessarily have the sensitivities of that CAD and some of these other systems do have. And MECC and IT have close relationships and work closely with kind of these other third parties as well. And two, just kind of a rough estimate of kind of the cost in there. So the city, through cost allocation, charges out this cost for services to the agencies, and the contract kind of specify kind of the annual amount that's billed kind of annually to the city or the city receives payment annually for these services. So you can kind of just get a general sense here about, if Park Board about $140,000 over 4 years paid to the city, Hennepin Healthcare Systems kind of more of that, about $100,000 a year through that. That the city is receiving in turn for providing, fulfilling its contractual obligations. And then two, kind of another component of this piece, and just kind of talk a bit more about it in a second here, but the third-party risk management. So in recent years, it's been kind of increasing focus on risk that third parties kind of impose, just through their own systems, their own vulnerabilities. I think when there's a lot of examples, of a company getting into, or an actor getting into one company, impacting other companies, through, for example, Target kind of a couple of years ago with their HVAC system, and kind of that's probably the most famous example, but that's kind of where I think a lot of this has kind of sprung, that kind of awareness that, you can secure your own systems, you can have your confidence that your own systems are secure, but when you kind of are, sharing access, having users log into systems, having some of that stuff, there's that vulnerabilities from other parties that you might not necessarily be able to, control. But I think, the key important pieces there is, you can be aware of, kind of do your own assessment, and kind of make sure that, you kind of know what vulnerabilities kind of might come before they hit you there. So as part of this one, we have 2 recommendations. And again, thank you, management, for working with us on these. And we have just a recommendation, then kind of a management response piece to it. And it will be kind of, if future audit work is kind of a part of risk assessment, if we do go back into these areas, we'll kind of expect to kind of see some of these risks that have been addressed. And in the report, it kind of specifies to more of that criteria, cause, and risk that we called out. But the first recommendation is around MECC 911 procedures. So procedures around contract management should be enhanced. We noted opportunities to document contracting processes at the departmental level, including knowing roles and responsibilities. An inventory of contracts MECC utilizes responsible for, other kind of key contract information. As part of our work in this one, we kind of assembled a contract inventory spreadsheet, kind of went through and kind of identified contracts and relationships, from the city and MECC specifically. We kind of noted opportunities for management to build off that inventory and process and improve upon that. So we recommended, MECC management work with IT, procurement, and other stakeholders to develop documented procedures around those contracts, including, the roles and responsibilities and some of the other criteria discussed, and then kind of also create designated locations for storing contract information, such as, using a shared drive or SharePoint, for staff to access to kind of build upon existing efforts and kind of create that create that historical record, kind of create that record for the department. So if there's turnover, if there's disruptions, if there's things that occur, you kind of have, a starting point and able to, depart records there. We kind of noted that turnover and some other things in the past kind of maybe have inhibited kind of the ability to, kind of identify what has kind of occurred in the past, and that's kind of where this recommendation is kind of, built around, is kind of doing that, opportunities to kind of start documenting, kind of creating that record and moving forward. So management response, MECC plans to continue using the contract inventory spreadsheet that audit created to better track and oversee contracts until a standardized process is in place. This will include the conception of clear policies and procedures to formalize management of MECC contracts when they are renewed, amended, or entered into by the department. And then management also stated that they will house this information in a shared location on OneDrive to maintain. And then our second recommendation kind of revolves around third-party risk management, so more of an IT one, but we noted that there are opportunities for continued investment to enhance and improve upon third-party risk management processes. So as part of this, we noted that, when the opportunities when a new contract is initiated, when there is, maybe a particular event, IT will kind of get involved, kind of do their own kind of risk assessment, kind of do their own assessment of, if it's related to IT, for example, IT or systems, of kind of the risk, and kind of, depending on the results, kind of depending on kind of what they're looking at, maybe sometimes they will do a more in-depth, in-depth risk assessment that is documented to kind of, assess kind of what the impacts that may have. But we noted that there's not kind of a routine process or kind of on a process more on a regular kind of basis to make sure that, when, the relationships are being good, that there's, nothing that is occurring or that has come up. A contract can go out, can last a long period of time, and it's kind of a point of time, but it's not that kind of continued assessment, kind of continued awareness and knowledge of, okay, this is what is occurring, this is kind of, in the current environment, these are the risk things that we need to be aware of as part of that assessment. So we recommended that the city should continue to explore approaches to build out that third-party risk management efforts, as well as efforts to enhance risk management through that regular ongoing assessments of parties the city has contracts with or utilizes. And we noted that, there might, discussions with IT, they kind of noted it might, require additional work, kind of resources to kind of be able to kind of build out that way. As you can kind of see in the management response, they do, that is an approach or direction that they're trying to undertake right now of kind of doing that more, they would like to kind of undertake kind of that more regular assessment, kind of more review. But, with resources, kind of with the current constraints, there is some constraints there. And then also, in our discussions with IT, they kind of mentioned there is some current work that, current tests that they're kind of going out for, working through kind of getting funding and RFPs for kind of more of a more in-depth IT analysis that will then kind of include third-party risk management. It sounds like that's kind of in the coming months and potentially kind of next year to come. I've got them doing that more in-depth penetration testing and some of that more in-depth review that third-party risk management might be a part of. But as part of the management response to IT management or information security leadership supports recommendation from audit, there's a definite need for a standard process to manage third-party risk, and the IT, again, the IT department reviews third-party organizations on that ad hoc basis to determine, based on resource availability. They also, as part of the response, stated that we urge the enterprise to invest resources in this area to develop a formal third-party risk management process to assess third-party organization before the conception of contracts or partnership on a regular annual basis to minimize risk to the city from these organizations. And that kind of concludes my presentation. I'll open if there's any questions or comments, and also if there's any questions for management as well.
Sure thing. Questions, comments from my colleagues? I'm not seeing any. Director Hodney, thank you. I think that maybe would you be willing to say just a few words? I'm curious. I think that this being a consult means that you as the director asked for this help, and I'm just curious how this has gone for you.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. That's correct. Over the last couple of years, the MUCC management team has been through several changes. And when I took over in the assistant director position and then in the director position, I felt like the contracts were chasing me instead of me reaching out on the contracts and saying it was time to review these. And there wasn't a place where I could go to and pull out these contracts and say, okay, this one's coming up due soon, or this is through IT, this is through us. And so this process has really helped us get all of our contracts together in one place, have them on an organized spreadsheet. I have a new management analyst, Rachel Zempel, she's the one that's with me today, who is now in charge of keeping track of these and being able to step up and say in advance, hey, we've got this contract coming up that needs to be renewed. I think probably the most difficult challenge for us with this was with the IT department. It's kind of hard for me to know sometimes when IT was getting billed for something and then billing me versus when it had to come through me, and it felt like it took the process a lot longer for me to work through the steps of asking everybody who I should go through. So this has definitely put us in the right direction to keep these more in an organized manner and develop some procedures. I appreciate the work that they did.
Great. Thanks for being here, Ms. Semple. I'm not seeing any questions or comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. Chair Palmisano.
Not seeing any questions or comments from committee members, I will direct the clerk to receive and file and publish this report. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries, and the report has been received and filed and will be published today. Our next item of business is the report of the city auditor.
Good morning, Chair Palmisano and Audit Committee members. I'd like to provide an update on all the projects the Audit Division has been working on. I'll be providing an update on all the completed and the audit work that we've been working on as in progress, and also update you on some of the investigations that we have been part of, and also provide an update on the issues that has been identified and issued previously as well. So there were, out of 9 total audit projects, so there were like 2 completed audits that we discussed previously. The first one was the revenue and collection phase 1 audit we completed and discussed earlier, and also the MECC third party and intergovernmental relationship consultation as well. So these were the 2 audits and consultation that we recently completed. And moving to the ones that are still in progress. So the first one is the IT outage after action review. So for this project, we hired an external consultant called Wildcard. So basically, the objective of the review was to provide, to see the city's response to the outage, assess the outage impact on city departments, examine factors that may have contributed to the outage, and identified ways for the city to mitigate future events. So basically, this outage happened back in August 2022 for approximately 69 days. So we hired the external consultant to see what was the impact and how city is gonna handle that for any future events. And so that work is still in progress, and we have been working with IT to remediate some of those findings that was identified in the report. So this one is still in progress. So the next one is the facilities management audit. So as a part of the audit was to review the effectiveness and efficiency of the controls around cities' facilities maintenance and repairs. So for this audit, we're primarily focusing on the maintenance and repairs, and we're working with Barbara O'Brien, like Property Services, for this audit. And for the status for this audit is still planning, but we're planning to send the scope memo sometimes this week. So for starting next week, we'll be in the fieldwork for this audit. So the next project we've been part of is the Neighborhood Safety Departmental Risk Assessment Consultation. So basically the objective of the assessment was to work with the neighborhood safety in establishing and conducting a departmental risk assessment activity that self-identifies, evaluates, and responds to risk. So basically we had worked with previous directors, temporary directors, but now they have a new director appointed in July of 2023. So we already have that initial meeting with her, and in the short time she has been here, she does have identified areas that might pose like a potential risk, and already have thought about what risk those processes might incur. So for now, we do got like some of the key contacts for various areas from her. So we're working with them to come up with like a structured way to provide them the information to how to come about to self-assess those areas and come up with their like a department risk assessment document. And we'll be also working with them as a part of the enterprise audit risk assessment in future in December as well. So the next audit we're working on right now is the property and evidence audit. And the objective of this audit is to review the processes and controls around property and evidence to ensure they're operating effectively. So basically, part of this audit, we're looking at the governance structure, like policy and procedures, and also the intake process of those property and evidence, and the safety and security of those property and evidence as well. Similar to the facilities management audit, so we are planning to send out the scope memo sometime this week as well, and the field work will be starting from next week. So the next audit in progress is the sexual assault examination kit special project follow-up audit. So we conducted this special project back in 2020, and it was not in a full audit, but just like a special project where we identified some of the issues that they might have. So as a part of that special project, the plan was to never like a follow-up actively on those issues, but we kept in touch with the management to see how the progress has been. So at this point, we decided, due to a lot of interest across city and public, maybe this is the right time to conduct that audit and see where they're at and whether they have been able to implement some of those potential opportunities that we identified as a part of the audit. So that's what this audit is about, and similar to other two audits as well, the scope memo will be sent out this week and will be in field work starting next week for this audit. So the next project is related to data analysis for the officers injured on duty. So the objective of this data analysis was to review data pertaining to officers injured on duty and analyze for trends. So we're working with the Office of Risk Management as well to obtain some of these data related to injuries, and we also looking at the data coming out from like COVID-19 and also PTSD. So we're gathering all those data and try to identify any trends which we could utilize in future audits as well. So this project is still in progress. So the next audit is the MPD biennial body worn camera and automated license plate reader audit. So for this audit, we hired an external contractor called Wildcard, and the objective of this audit is to test the Minneapolis Police Department's compliance with the state law regarding the body worn cameras and automated license plate readers. And one of the piece of this audit, the automated license plate readers, has already been completed, and we're still waiting on the audit completion for the body-worn cameras. So once we complete that as well, hopefully we'll discuss this report in coming audit committee meeting as well in December. If you have any questions so far related to all the projects?
I'm not seeing any.
All right, thank you. So the next one, besides the audit projects, we also sometimes get fraud, waste, and abuse-related investigations. And so for those types of investigations, right now there are like 3 open investigations that we're working on. And due to the nature of the investigation, we can't divulge the details, but we are actively working on 3 investigations right now. And the prior audit issue follow-up wise, so if you go to look at, so there are total right now 31 open audit issues, including the 7 we discussed earlier related to revenue and collection phase 1 audit. And we still have like 11 audit issues that has been overdue. And there are 2 issues where still validation is in progress. So we have already received the supporting documents for the management. So, but we're still going through those documents and assessing whether they have completed their management action plan or not. And for the closed issue, since our last audit committee meeting, we have one related to hiring and promotion process audit for like background check process. but we're still working with Dave Kruger, the HR director, to close those issues as much as possible.
We have a comment or question from Commissioner Abene.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. Actually, it's back a couple of slides, but in the, the beginning now, listing the projects, the one that was presented today on revenue and so on, that was phase 1. Phase 2 will include the park board. It said in the packet. So that's not on the list currently, so will that be out maybe a number of months to begin that one, or?
So that one will put that, once we go through the annual risk assessment and the audit plan, so we'll include that as a part of that.
Since it's phase 2, is it considered essentially a separate project, but with the same methodologies?
So the methodology will be the same, just the scope will be different because it will include the park board compared to the other city
Yeah,
divisions.
particular revenue collection sites and things like that.
Yep.
The other question is, this one's been on here for a couple of years, the grant administration process audit for the park board from 2019. Is there anything that I can help with? Is this an ongoing issue, or is it specific information that's you're waiting for, or?
And from my understanding, there is one open item for that, but we are working on that currently.
Mr. Com, did you want to come and give us, you seemed eager to jump out of your seat, so I'm just going to call on you.
No, thank you.
Right. Chair Palmisano, members, Councilmember Bennett, I just have a bit more specifics. I think it relates to some policy and procedure documents, and last time we followed up, they were still kind of being developed or kind of still being processed, and that is on a list to kind of follow up in the coming weeks and kind of months. But I think, thank you for your offer, and I think, we'll kind of do that follow-up and kind of, it relates to that with the kind of that finance group particularly. I think, I don't have the exact issue off the top of my head, but it's related to policies and procedures.
Thank you. I think they've been developing that grant writing function, and so it's somewhat of a new position, so maybe that's the delay as well. But, okay, thank you. Thanks. Those are my questions.
No, thank you.
Committee Member Singleton.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. And I think this question gets asked every meeting, but any updates on the 2019, the two 2019 police audits that still have open issues, the PIMS and the off-duty audits?
So that one, we're still working on it because I think with the change in staff and process, there might be like some work we might need to do in future and see where they at. But at this point, I think due to the change in staffing and personnel in the process, there is potential that we might revisit the audit again in future and then see where they at with the management action plan.
If I may, I will just add that in terms of the off-duty audit, those recommendations, some of those recommendations are moving forward on those recommendations do require a labor contract negotiation, and we aren't there yet in terms of the labor contract negotiation, and that really is the stopping point for some of the ability to remediate a couple of those issues. So I just want to be really clear on where the stopping point is on that.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano.
Committee Member Hosbein.
Thank you, Chair. I guess in terms of issue follow-up, I know in June we discussed the Baker Tilly Event Expo report. Is that then part of your follow-up in terms of additional steps?
For that one, for now, I don't have any further updates to provide, but once we get in concrete follow-up, like we'll provide that information in future upcoming audit committee meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. So these are the other, like a list of reports that we issued, which has like an outstanding management action plan, and we're working on that one currently. And now I'd like to introduce like Andrew Hawkins, Senior Project Manager, to provide an update on Policy and Research Division. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Hawkins.
Good morning, Chair Palmisano, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Hawkins. I manage the City Auditor's Policy and Research Division. You might start seeing the abbreviation PAR that we're using. Again, my understanding is you're not really an official government entity until you've got an acronym. So if you see PAR going forward, that's going to be what I'm referencing. So to get started, I just wanted to update on some completed projects. Perhaps a better title for the slide would probably be completed and ongoing projects. The first of which is the policy and research database and dashboards. That also includes our development of procedural manuals. Those were completed and launched, but kind of, again, after knowing this is a new thing and seeing that those are launched, one of the important pieces for us was to kind of get feedback from council members, as well as people on the administration side, kind of everybody that we're working with, so that we can continue to evolve that, so that these processes can work as best as possible in order to achieve the goals that we'd like to achieve as far as presenting impactful research and policy work to the council for them to make the decisions that are required from them. But this included, again, just some of the things that we wanted to pull from these were the ability just to track requests so that we know what volume we're getting in terms of workload, which will help us both assess scope as well as capacity, but also kind of, I think figure out, like what are some of the policy topics that we're getting a lot of, inquiries on, that we're doing, research and reporting on. This also allows us to essentially benchmark some of our metrics so that we can measure our own performance in terms of how quickly we're turning things around, how long after a request are we able to respond to a council office, to set up a meeting or to provide a prospective, timeline for when something might be completed. And then I think the other piece of this is a transparency component, which is something that we want to be very front and center for all this work. It's incredibly important since it's going to be guiding council decisions, that everything that we're doing is as open and available as possible. So while we will have a council-facing dashboard that will be specific to them, we will also have, again, I think kind of any number of them that spin off from this, one of which will include a public-facing dashboard that provides, again, to the extent that we're allowed to under Minnesota Data Practices Act, as much information about the ongoing work and kind of our, like what our requests look like. So again, that's something I look forward to updating everybody on as we, continue to have the opportunity to engage with you, to inform you on kind of the work that we're doing around that. Going off of that, we just had some updates on our completed policy briefings. I can't remember if I covered this last time, but as of right now, some of the defined stages we have for policy and research are, we kind of start with, similar to audit, the consultation stage, which is just just that, a conversation. From that, we can kind of go there's a number of directions we can go. I mean, that could be the end of it. Otherwise, policy briefing request is something that we're able to receive from council offices independent of any action taken by the full council. What a policy briefing entails is generally just a higher level overview of a topic to get an idea for what's out there, what are we doing, kind of the landscape analysis, again, at a very high level, just so that we kind of have a better understanding for where we might go. Once that's completed, we bring that back to the council office. If they have any questions for us, at that point we have the opportunity to engage with them on sort of what are the next steps, with the idea being that there might be some pieces there that line up with, I think, more in-depth things they'd like to look at. At that point, it can go back to committee of the whole for council to take a vote on that. It does require a majority of council to vote on essentially a council request that we then undertake a research report that we will bring back to one of the designated council committees. We've currently, I don't believe I had any last time to update on, but I think as of right now, we have 5 policy briefings that were completed. Again, the topics covered were everything from auto theft, government collaboratives, municipal loan assistance, mitigation of decreasing enrollment in schools, that as far as what's taken by municipalities, and various municipal financial support programs. And this one actually kind of serves as a good jump off for my next one for our ongoing work, because you'll see the second bullet, municipal strategies to deter and prevent auto theft, was something that we actually received a request for a policy briefing. We did that. We engaged with the office. I mean, again, since this is a public, Councilmember Koski was we were able to engage with on that, and then move forward for an actual research request. So that's something that we're currently in the midst of, trying to complete that report that we'll then bring back to the Public Health and Safety Committee, I believe, in the coming weeks. And then the other one that we're currently working on is a municipal special assessment process that Chair Palmisano, we were able to engage with both your office and Councilmember Ellison on. And that one is just an analysis of municipal policies around the various assessment processes, also to include a focus on street and sidewalk improvements, as well as tree removal, both I think kind of in general, but also as a result of any issues related to invasive species. And I believe, again, it was fairly short and sweet. I know I talk fast and maybe covered a lot, so I'm more than happy to stand for any questions you might have before I turn it back.
Commissioner Bene.
Sorry, thank you, Chair Palmisano. That one catches my eye, the last one you spoke about, the municipal special assessments, because it's been, the tree removal part has been very difficult for people that are now being tagged and assessed in parts of the city, although it's been going on for about 8 or 10 years, something like that, due to emerald ash borer, I should say. So the park board is actually the public entity that tags and coordinates the removal of those trees if the citizens, residents, property owners don't want to take the lead on it themselves, right? So, but I would say that I would hope that there's actually a very clear distinction drawn in this work to say what's an assessment for a public asset or a public piece of infrastructure and something else on non-public land, because I think that's a distinction. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at strategies, but I think the strategies have to be different. I just wanted to say that. So I'm glad you're looking at this. This is a big deal. Thanks.
No, I mean, absolutely, and I wanted to note, I mean, this seemed like a perfect opportunity to mention to you that that is something that we will be reaching out to the park board on to make sure that anything in our report contains a very clear delineation for who's responsible at any stage of the process, as well as if you'd like to, again, like meet with myself and our team, I mean, we're open to recommendations on where the best contact point would be in order to get any information from that side. We're still kind of figuring out the best practices and channels for when we have something that's going to go into someone else's area of responsibility. We want to be very deliberate with, how we're engaging with that party and how we're calling everything out. So it's clear that, like people, again, that council has as best of an understanding as possible for, what they can actually do versus where we're going to need collaboration with other groups.
Other questions or comments from my colleagues? I'm not seeing any at this time.
Thank you.
I think that's your last slide. Go ahead, Mr. Patrick.
I'm so used to being up here talking for quite a long time. I just wanted to thank my staff. They've put in a lot of hours of hard work, and it's nice to see the team coming together under new leadership, and thank them for everything they did to prepare for this meeting.
Thank you. I often speak with our city auditor, Ryan Patrick, about how the impacts of these issues are actually quite far-reaching. I hope we haven't all gotten buried or bored in the weeds here this morning, because the results of these audits are important. The remediation of these audit issues found are really important. They're about safeguarding our city, and they're about holding the public trust. So thank you for all of your work today. I'll direct the city clerk to receive and file this auditor's report. Are there any announcements from my colleagues? I'm not seeing any. So seeing no further business before us and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.